Hi everyone, this is Andrea and I'm in Jerusalem right now in the heart of the city. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is a very hard video for me to make. I honestly really don't know what I'm going to say in this video. I know I have to make it and I'm just going to do my best to speak from the heart. For those of you that don't know, and I'm sure this video is going to stay on YouTube for a while, there's a lot going on in Jerusalem right now and all over the Middle East. And honestly, from my standpoint, in the middle of Jerusalem, like the city is going up in flames, and the hatred and anger and disconnection and blockades that people have between themselves and each other is like, it's painful. And I'm scared to make this video. I'm really scared because, first of all, for someone that has been told over and over again that bravery is her strong point, and who my favorite quote is, "A life lived in fear is a life half lived," it's really difficult to me, for me to admit that I'm scared. I'm scared of the ugliness I'm seeing in other human beings. I'm scared of the ugliness that I'm seeing in myself. And this is what's happening right now. It's happened before in Israel. It's not an uncommon occurrence, but what is different about this time from any other time that I've seen is that it's trickled down to people, like every single person on the street. It's not just within the government. It's not just out there. This is really real, and it's actually scary to go walk on the streets right now. So what I want to share with you is, first of all, that it's okay to be scared, and it's okay to be vulnerable. I feel like this is happening for a reason. This is happening at this time of year, right before Tisha B'Av, right before the 3 weeks, to tell us something. And it's really, though it feels hopeless, it's happening to give us hope. I'm going to share with you 2 thoughts that have been comforting me. I don't want to say comforting, but have been ringing in my head since everything has blown up since I arrived in Israel about a month ago. And the first one, I haven't decided which order I was going to say it, but I'm going to share them in 2 orders. The first one is, what should we be striving for in our lives? And I heard this, I'm not going to say who I heard this from because I don't know if this rabbi would want to be mentioned, but if I will ask him, and if he does want to be mentioned, I will mention it in the captions of the video. But he was talking about something completely different. But he was saying there's 2 things when people become more, let's say, observant or connected with their spiritual selves. 2 approaches that you can take. One is to strive for the infinite, for Hashem, for God. And the other one is to strive for truth. And these 2 things are very similar. Both truth and God are one and the same, obviously. But there's a real distinction between the 2, and this is something, since he said this has been sitting in my brain. When you strive for God, when you strive for the infinite, as a finite being, when you strive for something that's infinite, you're striving for a relationship. And by nature, a relationship is always changing. It's always growing. It's always evolving. Since I'm striving for a relationship with something infinite, I know that I'm never going to get there as long as I'm in this world. I'm always going to be growing. I'm always going to be changing. And by nature, when you're striving for a relationship, you're open. You're open to understanding. You're open to each other. You're open to doubt. You're open to all these things. And that's beautiful. The mistake that many people make, and I'm definitely someone that made this mistake often in my journey, and I hurt a lot of people by making this mistake, is when you search for truth. As a finite being, when you search for truth, even though truth and God are one, you as a finite being will never have truth. And when you search for truth, often what you find is an ideology. And while I'm an idealist in every sense of the word, I don't have an ideology, because an ideology is something that limits. An ideology is something that creates a boundary between you and other. And an ideology is something that hurts. And it's something that's saying, I'm right and you're wrong. And I somehow have more knowledge and more precedence, and I'm living, basically it's creating a boundary, and it creates arrogance, it creates hate, and it creates a lot of ugliness. So it's such a simple distinction whether or not you're striving for an infinite relationship with your Creator, or whether or not you're striving for an ideology and striving to have personal truth, like I'm right, therefore you're wrong. So this is something, since this man said this, I was like, oh my goodness. So, and I'll show you why this affected me so much. Many of you might not know, but my whole life, I've vacillated from every single spectrum of political ideology, many spectrums, probably not every, in terms of political, definitely every, many spectrums of religious thought, philosophical thought, and to this day, when I see my friends who reside in each camp, I can see so much truth in everything that everyone is saying. And I can see so much truth and so much yearning and so much, everyone thinks that they're right. No one is going out there thinking that they're a bad person. No one is going out there, I'm just talking about my Facebook newsfeed right now, which has exploded with a lot of hate. No one is going, yes, maybe some people are going out there to prove other people wrong, but no one thinks that I'm a bad person and I'm wrong and I'm going to go out and hurt people. Everyone thinks they have the truth. And that's the problem with ideologies, is that everyone thinks they have a truth, and therefore what is different from my ideology is wrong. And that's wrong. That's really wrong, and it's creating a lot of pain. And I'm seeing this when I look in my newsfeed, like that's why I haven't posted anything, because I'm looking at what my friends are saying. I'm like, you're right, and you're right, and you're also right, and everyone is right. Why are we fighting? Why we have so much hate and so much anger that we're sitting here fighting, yet everyone's right. I've been learning, my husband's been learning since we've been in Israel, a lot about shalom. And shalom is often translated into English as peace. And for me, the idea of peace is kind of an unmoving state of being. And shalom is not like this. Shalom means harmony. And harmony by nature means that there's more than one note being played. There's more than one thing happening. Harmony means that things are working together and we're creating a symphony of life. Of course, I'm going to be using a music analogy, right? But shalom means harmony. It doesn't mean that we all think the same thing. It doesn't mean that we do the same thing. It means that someone's a tuba and someone is a piccolo. Seriously. And someone is a conductor. And someone's a first violin concertmaster, and someone is at the back of the cello section. Yet we're creating a beautiful piece of music together. And honestly, chas v'shalom, there should be like this in Israel. I was just laughing today. It's not funny. It sounds like a really bad pointillistic modern piece of music. And as much as I love modern music, it sometimes can be a mess. It sounds like we're all playing random notes and we're fighting to be heard. And we're fighting, and there's no music. It's ugliness. I just want to plug my ears and stay at home and not go out anymore. And this is the problem. And this is like this misinterpretation of what shalom is. Shalom means harmony. It does not mean that everyone thinks the same thing, but it does mean acknowledging that every single instrument in that orchestra is essential. So that's the first. I hope it's not so windy that you can't hear me. That's the first thing that's going through my mind. The second thing is that's really helping me, especially, again, I'm saying Facebook because that's most of my access to the world, although I've stopped checking my Facebook because it's just making me really sad lately. The second thing is something that my sister-in-law learned in seminary, actually, in her Shalom Bayit classes, which is like her, it's a class on how to have a relationship with your spouse or with other people, how to have a home of shalom. And this is how to have a harmonious home. And this teacher said something, and I'm going to say it and then I'm going to explain it. She said, curiosity is the antidote to defensiveness. Curiosity. That's a very interesting thing, and that has been sticking with me. So, when you're having an argument with someone, and I know what is going on here in Israel right now is, we could say it's much bigger than an argument that you might have with your husband or with your sister or anything, but you know what, it's really not. And one thing I do have to say before I go into the whole curiosity thing, the reason why I'm telling you this is because everyone is hurting so badly right now. We are all hurting. We are all confused. We might be going around fighting and saying all these ideologies, but we are hurting so badly, and that is why we're hurting each other. And I just urge you, if you get one thing from this video, please, please treat your family well. Treat the people that you see on the streets well. Have curiosity for each other. and understand that everyone is in a lot of pain right now, and therefore we might not be acting in the most ideal way. Anyway, curiosity. What happens when you have an argument with someone is that usually you get defensive and the other person gets defensive, and all you're doing is defending yourself, you're protecting yourself. The antidote to defensiveness, and by the way, defensiveness is toxic. Once you start defending yourself and the other person starts defending themselves, like, there's no point in talking. Just seriously stop. And I urge you, if you guys are on Facebook or having arguments right now, if you feel that defensiveness, just don't do it. You're just going to end up hurting someone and hurting yourself, and no one is going to learn anything, and nothing is going to get better. Just seriously stop that. Maybe go have a really good heart-to-heart with your best friend if you want to discuss something and try to come to an understanding. But don't do this online. It's very toxic. Curiosity, however, is the antidote to defensiveness. If I'm, let's say, having a debate with my husband, and he's saying one thing and I'm saying another thing, if I'm to sit here and say, wait a minute, he's a human being, this is my soulmate, he's basically the best person in the world to me, why does he feel that way? Why does he think this? He's not a bad person, and no person out there is a bad person. No, really, I'm just saying, every single, I know you're going to argue with me. Every single person is a creation of God, and every single person in this world is being allowed by God to do what they are doing right now. I'm not saying to have sympathy with murderers, chas v'shalom, like, this is not the point of this video. What I'm saying is that when your friend on Facebook says something that you disagree with, and you want to argue with them, instead, try to have curiosity. Try to say, where's this person coming from? Obviously, they think this is true. Obviously, this is something they believe. Why? Maybe I can learn something from it. Maybe it's not going to necessarily change what I think, but it might help me understand where they're coming from. And God willing, if we do this, we will reach Mashiach. The world will be redeemed. Seriously, if we can all do this and all just take that one moment to be curious about each other. Because curiosity means that the other person is valid, that the other person is worth being curious about, and every single person is worth being curious about. You can learn something from every single person on this world. Really. I want to try to do that, and I'm urging you all to try to do that. I don't know what's going to happen. God willing, everyone will be safe, and there won't be any more murders, and there won't be any more bloodshed, but I don't know. As I said, I'm scared. The sirens, there's way too many sirens happening right now in Jerusalem, and I haven't been looking at the news because it just makes me sick. So I don't know, and that's why I'm making this video right now. I'm just making this video because these are the thoughts that have been running around my head for the whole time. So please, everyone, strive for your relationship with your Creator. Take on one mitzvah, one good deed. I know there are things that you have been slacking on. I know there are things that I've been slacking on a lot that I have to take on. 2, don't let what's going on make you wither and die. Chas v'shalom. I've been having thoughts all week, and I'm saying, seriously, what does it matter if I tie on a beautiful head covering? What does it matter, tichels, Rapunzel, this or that? This is like, there are 16-year-old boys being murdered, and there's 16-year-old boys being murderers themselves. What does it matter what I'm wearing on my head? And this is not the answer. The answer is not to shut ourselves in a room and cry, maybe for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but not all day. Our answer is to go out there and bring peace and love into the world. How to do this, especially when everyone is hurting so much, is to understand that everyone is hurting, and we all express our hurt in different ways. And if someone says something that offends you, or someone says something rude to you, it is because they are in pain. They are in deep pain. Everyone is in pain right now. Try to have curiosity as to where this pain is coming from, what this person is feeling, where they are coming from. And if we can do this, B'ezrat Hashem, we will reach shalom and true harmony and be able to create the beautiful symphony that is possible in this world. I know it's possible, and I know we can all do it. Okay? I love you all. Thank you so much. Kol tuv. Bye-bye. Before anyone goes and comments on the video that I just made, there are 2 things I want to clear up, because I don't want, God forbid, anyone going into the world and saying that Andrea Grinberg is saying something that she isn't. Okay. The first one is, I'm not saying that, God forbid, I'm not saying that one shouldn't strive for truth. Of course one should strive for truth. Of course there's this incredible book by Rabbi Dessler called Strive for Truth. It is one of my favorite books. I read it all the time. When truth and the infinite are connected, that's the most beautiful thing that one can do, because when you strive for that sort of truth, that's the sort of truth that you can actually bring into this world. You know, obviously, if we're just sitting around striving for the infinite is not tangible, and therefore we can't bring it into the world in any sort of action, and that's a problem. So striving for that sort of truth, of course, of course. However, when truth becomes the sort of ideology, and of course I'm not saying anything against ideologies. I am a Torah observant Jew. I keep 613 mitzvot. I have many rules and many boundaries that I follow and many limits. Of course, and I have a very, very hardcore ideology, obviously. When that ideology becomes a blockade between yourself and your creator, and yourself and our fellow men and women out there, that is where the problem lies, and that's what I'm speaking out against. Of course, if we are to have shalom in terms of that symphony, that harmony that I was talking about, then we have to be playing our own instrument. And then every single instrument has its own rules and boundaries. And, oh, my curtain is in the way. You have to play that instrument, and you can't be looking over your shoulder wondering about someone else's instrument. That's not what I'm trying to say. You have to play your part, and you have to play your part well, okay, in order to create that perfect symphony that we're talking about. So, of course, what I'm talking about is when an ideology becomes avodah zarah, when it becomes idol worship. When that ideology is actually not about God, but it's about you and your own ego. That is what I'm talking about, and that's the problem with ideologies, when the ideology gets disconnected from Hashem. Okay, so I really hope this clears up anything that I said in the video. Please don't misinterpret anything I was saying. Okay, cool too. Bye-bye.